at that overtime victory. Never in doubt. Never in doubt. You made a good point. Why are you in a sweater and a beanie when you're in California? Now, I think what happens is you get acclimated to your climate, right? So, like, I think outside it's probably like 50, 55 or something. And for me, that's like beanie and sweater weather. Whereas, like, if you live in Utah, it's like -5. And that's why you would have a beanie and a sweater on. So what degrees is it outside right now, OC?
It's currently 25 degrees.
Wow. That sounds so cold.
And it's snowing.
Okay.
And it's not like the beautiful, fluffy, powdery, like kind of silently decorating your trees. Right now, it's blowing sideways.
Oh.
And it's just, it's wet.
Oh, like icy?
Yeah, it's like an icy, wet, ugly snow. So
yeah, So, like, I lived in, by the way, welcome on in. That is Sean O'Connell. Follow him on Twitter at @RealOCSports. I am Zachariah. Follow me on Twitter at ZachSports. I'm going to be glass half empty guy again, which I know is going to come as a shock to you because you've been calling me like a pillow fighting SOB over the past, first 8-9 weeks or whatever of this podcast. But I'm still walking away from this game that I don't feel really good about the team. I mean, yes, on the road, right? By the way, did you see that, they call the Seahawks fans, they call them the 12th man?
Yes.
Did you see on that first play of the game when Carr threw a pick that a 12th man literally ran onto the field?
I can't stop watching it. It's
the first time I've ever seen something like that.
It's the greatest thing I've ever seen in all of my years of watching football. Like, that happens in, like, Pop Warner games in Podunk, Arkansas. That does not happen in the NFL. You just run off the sideline and start throwing blocks?
Okay, here's my hard-hitting CNN, Fox News question, whatever you want to call it. Do you think he got caught up in the moment and literally did not know what he was doing? Or do you think that he thought that he could get away with it? Because he did. But I'm saying, like, do you think he consciously knew what he was doing and did it? Because I don't. I think, like, maybe he thought the play was dead or something. You can't be that dumb to actually run on there knowing that you're doing something wrong, right?
No, I think he was just like, in this quick change of direction, like, I'm just going to run on here. I'm going to throw a block. We're going to have some fun.
Well, hang on. You're not answering the question. Did he know that he was doing something illegal?
Yes.
Okay. So he thought he was going to get away with it.
Hold on. There's only one other explanation for this, right? If your teammate intercepts a ball and, like, hits the ground, right? In the NFL, you got to be touched down. You can pop up, right? So, like, if someone dives and catches it or something, and you're a young player, you think
the play's over. Yeah.
You're more used to college. You're running on to celebrate.
Yeah.
And maybe he's running on to celebrate, and then he's just like, oh, play's still live. And it's just like, I'm just going to run and blend in. Maybe it was that. Maybe he was running on to, like, do the jump up in the air, the body bump, and he was just like, oh, shit, they're still playing. So he's just like, I better throw a block.
So he was the guy in the club that walked up to a girl and then slipped and then just tried to play it off and just kept it moving and went to the bathroom instead of hitting on her.
It's a really poor analogy, but yes, that.
I love that analogy. I think it was perfect. All right. Again, I walk out of this. I do think that ultimately the record will reflect more of my optimism and my positivity about the squad at the end of the year. It's not going to be a playoff record. It's not going to be anything that you can write home about. I do think they have tons of questions of what you're going to do. Do you just run it back? But I walked out of there thinking, not like last week where I said that's the only team in the NFL that they can beat, but it did feel like they were playing a team that is barely beatable by them and might continue moving forward. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. We've talked about all the one-score losses, OC, and, like, playing KC and going for 2 and losing by 1 and, all the different things. It's still not striking me as a team that could be formidable or a team that you would trust or think could not only make the playoffs but advance?
Look, I'm not going to change my tune on their ability to make the playoffs. Certainly not going to change my tune on their ability to.
Well, not this year. I'm looking. We're looking big picture now. OC.
Well, you can't look big picture because Josh Jacobs, who was a driving force behind a win like that, is not going to be in a Raider uniform next year. So you got to take this game for what it is.
How sure are you about that? Oh, they just can't afford him?
I mean, do you think he wants to be part of the franchise as it's being run right now?
Don't you get more money if you stay with your team? I could see him wanting to, but I don't know that they can afford him based on what they're paying Carr and Devontae Adams and Max Crosby and everybody else.
Yeah, you're thinking of the NBA where you can get the fifth year on a.
No. That's the rookie contract.
Yeah, you get a fifth year on the Supermax if you extend. If you stay.
Yeah, no, but they declined his fifth year option on his rookie deal. But I think that if you stay in the team that you were drafted by, you get more money. I could be wrong about that.
I think that's an NBA thing.
Also. Okay. I could be wrong.
In any case, I just don't think. I mean, he's going to have. First of all, the run game is starting to get more important in the NFL again, right? Running backs, especially with some versatility, are starting to be valued a little bit more highly again. And he's kind of established himself. He's proved himself as that. So I think the right thing for him to do is to, shop around, let himself be wined and dined and entertained. I highly doubt he's going to be in a Las Vegas Raiders uniform next year. And that's why, for me, I looked at this game through the lens of, like, what does it mean for the roster now? I give them credit, right? You can't talk as much noise against what they're trying to do this year as I have, and then when they actually do something nice and they pull out a win against a tough team in overtime with a beautiful play, by the way, and a great performance from a running back, you got to give them the credit that they're due. They weren't supposed to beat that Seattle team. Seattle, I don't think, gave enough credit, didn't show up to play the way that they should have, and except for the guy who ran onto the field off the sideline and made himself the literal 12th man. But yeah, you get, like, the Raiders are competing hard, and this is one thing that you do. You have to remind yourself when you're like, they suck, they stink. Well, they're all still professionals, and relative to their competition, they might not have the depth of talent on the roster that they need to compete and win every month, every week, like the Chiefs or something like that. But these guys are all as individuals among the top 10% in their craft, top 1% in their craft at their given position. So we shouldn't be as surprised if they show up and compete and work hard, and somebody else is just kind of like rolling the helmet out and thinking they're going to get a win. Good for the Raiders. You got to give them credit where it's due.
Yeah, I know, and I guess that's where my frustration comes from. And a lot less my frustration versus Raider Nation or the organization or the players themselves. But there have been so many games, and everybody hates the woulda, coulda, shoulda game. But there are so many games in this schedule that they have lost. I'm not trying to create optimism like there's hope for this season. The season's over. But I think what you're going to see is a team that shows how much better they could have been. Now, if we were talking, let's say even half of those games went the other way, and we're talking about the Raiders right now being like, they'd still be behind the Chiefs. So, like, let's say like a 4th seed or whatever. Would you not be saying to yourself, wow, Max Crosby, that guy is good. He pretty much ruined Geno Smith's day, even though they scored a lot of points. Would you not be going, Josh Jacobs, I think he has the most rush yards from scrimmage in Raiders franchise history with 303. Obviously, a lot of that was on the 85-yard run in overtime. But you're not looking at Devontae Adams and going, last I checked, he's the best wide receiver, if not top 3 in the league. And then you're going, Derek Carr, okay. And then McDaniels came from Belichick's tree second time around. I mean, starting to get pumped, aren't you? I mean, we're having a totally different conversation that we're doing now, which is like the next thing that I want to bring up after we put like a little bubble on this thing, which is people are asking, should the Raiders draft a quarterback in the first round next year? Totally different conversation. And it's only half the games of what they lost in one-score games, OC.
Yeah, but again, shoulda, coulda, woulda in sports means literally nothing.
Yeah, I know. You're not one of those guys. But here's the thing, OC.
I am when I'm talking about teams like my teams, just like, you make one more play, the ref throws the flag there, that game turns out different. But it's a faulty if, and especially when it's a pattern, right? If you lose one-score game that either keeps you in the wild card race or puts you out of the wild card race, I'm all about it, right? Like, go ahead and cry, go ahead and die on that hill. That's what fans are supposed to do. But if your team loses 5 one-score games or 6 one-score games, it's not a fluke. It's not an outlier. It's a pattern.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, you're not finishers then. Like,
yeah.
You compete hard, but you don't know how to finish, right?
Yeah.
If I almost lose or if I almost win every fight of my career, oh, well, he almost won. How many guys do you even know their name that almost won a lot of fights? The answer is 0. Nobody.
I don't know, but I'm guessing a lot of your wins, everybody else's, the guys that you beat and their friends were saying woulda, coulda, shoulda.
Yeah, you almost.
But instead, you knocked them out. I mean, yeah, I hear you.
You almost beat that guy. Those guys.
Who was the defensive lineman for the Chiefs? D. Ford. When Brady threw the interception that would have ended that game at Arrowhead, and instead it was an offsides call. I mean, that's a woulda, coulda, shoulda moment.
Sure.
I don't know. I'm a big woulda, coulda, shoulda guy.
Yes, and it's obnoxious. But look, it's great for the one outlier play or the tuck rule, stuff like that. That's woulda, coulda, shoulda. Okay? But when it becomes a pattern and it's who your team is, you can't do it. You can't justify, excuse, talk about it anymore. What is it? There's once is a fluke, 2 is a trend, 3 is a pattern. Anything beyond that, it's just who you are.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, I got you. I mean, you can forgive somebody for something. They do it twice, you're less likely to forgive them. They do it 3 times, you just kind of disregard them. I mean, I get it. I just, I don't know. In sports, I feel like more than anything, like, for instance, the Dolphins, right? If Tua hadn't been concussed, they could be 11-0. And that's a coulda, woulda, shoulda thing. The backup quarterbacks are terrible. You could do coulda, woulda, shoulda there. They might be undefeated if he had played in all those games. They had the lead against Cincinnati. They wouldn't have lost to the Jets if he was healthy, and they lost to the Vikings are pretty good. Anyways, my point is, who knows what would have happened if Tua was playing? I don't know. You say it's nauseating for you. It's nauseating for me because I am such a person that breaks down stuff one by one, like 1 + 1 = 2. And I will always say that 2 + 2 = 4. So when I don't have that to be part of the equation, then I go woulda, coulda, shoulda. But anyways, we can move on. All right. I think I've asked you a lot of football questions, but I don't think I've ever asked you this one. What are your thoughts on tossing a ball back when you're trying to get short yardage?
In a run play situation?
Yeah, like as opposed to either quarterback sneaking it or just handing it off to the running back, but like the full-blown tossing back. The pitch, or not a pitch. It's a pitch.
A pitch, a toss. Yeah. Well, first of all, you got to know where your matchups are, right?
Okay.
Like there are some.
Oh, so you're saying that you don't have necessarily a fundamental part with it. It depends on what your personnel is.
100%.
Okay.
Right. If you've got like Justin Herbert, Josh Allen, Big Ben, who else? Like who's a really strong quarterback? Big, like those guys. If it's 3rd and 2, 4th and 2. That guy just has to fall forward, and that's 2 yards.
Well, Tom Brady's the best one at it.
Okay, so
I don't know how, but he's never failed a quarterback sneak in his life. Anyways, go ahead.
He probably has failed 1 or 2, right? But like those guys, sure, just tuck it behind, and you got to know who your offensive line is, right? And the competition you're facing. In the NFL, it's not. it's not so cut and dry as it should be in like high school football. If you're talking about the Baltimore Ravens, you got like Lamar Jackson in space is a better matchup for you than pretty much anything else. So you can run a damn speed option if you feel like it. If you've got a big body back, if you've got Derrick Henry and you're tossing and trying to get something out in space or out on the edge, that's silly. But you got to know what your matchups are. So there's no hard.
Yeah. I mean, I'm specifically talking more about the philosophical idea of starting your play 5 yards, 6, 7 yards. I mean, it's 5 yards back, and if you need to get 2 or whatever, starting that far back before getting to where you want to go to. And I'm talking about the Raiders because the Raiders did it.
Okay, and you don't like it?
Hate it. Think it's the dumbest thing in the world.
What, you wanted them to line up under center and have Carr sneak it?
I wanted anything but starting your playoff. I mean, it's like we go play pickup hoop, and I'm like, yeah, OC, just so you know, we're down 7 going in. Why are we losing by 7? Why would you ever want to be down by 7 going into the game?
I don't have a hard, fast rule on this because your matchups and your play calling and your personnel are the margins are so thin in the NFL. And by the way, I watch a lot of college football. My day job is college football. And do you know how few people ever line up under center in college football these days? Like there are teams that are winning conference championships this weekend.
Yeah, RPO. Yeah.
Never get under center. So every play they start is minus 5 yards.
Yeah.
Right? So like it works for them. They still convert. What are we crying about for the NFL?
Yeah. No, I know. I just if they had done that, like if Carr had, I mean, they don't really do that with Carr because Carr's not like an RPO guy or whatever. But if they had done some sort of thing, I don't know. The whole thing of like needing to get the 5 yards even to start where you started annoys the hell out of me. And it didn't work for McDaniels, who I think walked away from that. I didn't walk away any more confident in McDaniels. Did you? I mean, the offense is starting to pick up, but it's because they're riding the hell out of Jacobs. I didn't walk away. Oh yeah, McDaniels giving me a lot more confidence in the silver and black.
Yeah, I don't like a win by itself, right? Even a good one, even an exciting one, even one that you get to pound your chest a little bit because you did it in an unexpected fashion over a good team, doesn't change the direction of your franchise by itself.
Yeah. Well, okay, all right. We're going to go to something else after this, but I want to ask you this. What the hell do you do? Because I just told you, if those one-loss games, woulda, coulda, shoulda, I won't bring that up again, but had those gone differently, we'd be having a different conversation. If they were in the playoff picture, they're not totally dead, but they might as well be. In the words of Aaron Rodgers, I don't want to be not out there unless I'm mathematically eliminated. I don't believe that the Raiders are mathematically eliminated, but it's not looking good. But when I'm reading articles, should the Raiders draft a quarterback in round 1 of 2023, if you're telling me that these back-to-back wins are not anything that they can go and rally around in terms of their future, what the hell do you do with the highest paid wide receiver, a running back that's probably going to be next year the highest paid running back, a quarterback who gave you a very team-friendly contract, a defensive end getting tons of – I mean, what the hell do you do if you're the Raiders, OC? Because if you're not going to give me any hope, then you got to give me some sort of rebuild plan.
Well, if it's me, I am not building a franchise around quarterback first.
What the hell are you talking about? It's the most important position in sports.
Correct.
Sorry.
It's the most important position.
Did I lose you there? Did I lose you there somewhere?
It's the most important position in sports.
Yeah.
What happens and what has happened dozens of times, hundreds of times in the NFL, when you take the top drafted quarterback and you put him behind a terrible offensive line with crap weapons at his disposal, playing for a coach who doesn't know what they're doing. How many times has it happened in the NFL? How many times do you need to see it happen where a guy who is otherwise quality is declared a draft bust because he ends up with a franchise that can't protect him, can't keep him upright, can't coach him up, can't get on the same page with him, doesn't give him anybody to throw to. How often do you need to see it before you realize that that is not the be-all, end-all of a franchise? Just making sure you – like Kyler Murray, top draft pick, unbelievable athlete, great quarterback. The Arizona Cardinals stink because their coach is an idiot. And they don't have a good offensive line.
Okay. So what I'm saying is specifically with this team, what are you doing? You're trading Carr? You're releasing Carr? Are you trading Devontae Adams? Are you not re-signing Josh Jacobs? What are you doing with Crosby? What are you doing?
I am doing what I can to retain as much talent as I have.
Okay.
I might try and package, because you don't get to package Josh Jacobs, right? You can't, he's a free agent. You can't turn him into assets for your future.
Well, you could do a sign and trade. I think that's what they did with Devontae.
Devontae Adams, you could probably use for draft picks. I don't know how valuable Derek Carr is for draft picks, right?
I think I saw one of those football guys, one of the ones that watches all the film. He's actually really good. He breaks it down. Forget who it was. Anyways, he said that he talked to GMs and the market is you can get a 2 for him.
And by the way, I know the Raiders fans are sitting there screaming at us right now because they're like, we drafted Leatherwood. We tried to do this thing where you get an Alabama off. Like, okay, I know that strategically you tried to do this. Mm-hmm. And so I'm preaching to the choir, or you're just getting upset about the fact that, nothing works out for the Raiders. But if you can't trust the front office to get the right kind of building blocks, then you got to revamp the front office.
Okay.
If you do trust this front office to get the right kind of building blocks, you turn these flashy toys that are not translating to wins, whether you think that's Adams, Jacobs, Carr, whatever, you turn them into draft picks to lay a foundation. And that's the way you move forward.
I know, but that's
like, we got
that's so hard to sell when you move from Oakland to Vegas and you have the new stadium and you sign the big sexy free agent guy in Devontae Adams and you got Jacobs running the league with all his. I mean, to go to them and be like, oh yeah, you know what, putting on Carr. Got to build some foundation pieces around here. We're going to go 4-13 every year, but that's how we're doing it in Vegas. Like, especially there. These people are gambling and wearing mink coats to the games.
So you want to continue to be a 4 or 5 win team with these people. Like, that's what you want to do with an aging talent base?
Okay. You're rephrasing it very poorly. I think they have the pieces there, like I said, and I think it's going to show out by what the end of their year record is, that they're much better than how they played in the first 8 games. Period. Like, I think the talent is, and that's why I went, okay, exactly from week 1 that we've been doing this podcast, I've been the optimist, right? The glass half full guy, right? And then all of a sudden, I was very negative. And why was I negative? Because of the head coach. And that's why I said, bring in, if Sean Payton was coaching this team, their record would be different. I promise you. If Bill Belichick was coaching this team, their record would be different. I promise you.
Okay. I hope you're right. And I hope that the tail end of this season, because the offensive line is a lot better than they were on paper at the beginning of the year, and a lot
much better. Yeah, we talked about that for like 2 months, and then all of a sudden, yeah, they've been much better.
Right. And how much of that is Jacobs making them look good? Like, we'll find out, right? Because it all comes out in the wash.
Yeah.
So I hope you're right, and I really do, for the Raiders' sake. I hope I'm wrong, and that they do have the foundational pieces that they need, and that they can just, keep riding this way. But in your scenario, right, let's say the offensive line doesn't need draft help. That this group of guys, you're like, wow, they're actually a lot better than I thought they were. Let's say that Jacobs decides he wants to be a Raider. He loves Las Vegas. He wants to gamble his life away. He's like, no, I want to be here. Now your question is, okay, we got Devontae Adams, we got Josh Jacobs. Zachariah told us this offensive line was better, and we won 4 games at the end of the year that show that we have some bright flashes and we can do some good things. All right. Now you have to decide, is Derek Carr the right man to lead us forward into the future? And the answer to that, for any reasonable individual, is more than likely no. So that means, yes, you do draft the quarterback in the first round this year. You go either, and because I don't think there's not a Sauce Gardner type DB in this draft. So yeah, you probably go quarterback then.
All right. Well, I mean, you and I we're gonna grow old fighting over. By the way, I have not rubbed it in your face the way that you love to rub things in my face. My Jimmy Grapes. Yeah, I know. Not a lot of points last week. I mean, these guys' numbers, they're just starting to add up. I mean, do you know, this was actually a pathetic stat that I purposely didn't send to you because I felt like you would turn it around and use it against me. But he's got by far the best winning percentage when not throwing a touchdown or something like that. Anyways, my boy Jimmy G is doing his thing. He plays
with the San Francisco 49ers defense. The best linebacking duo in the league right now. The best pass rusher in the league right now. Okay?
Who's under center? I hate the Niners. I might buy a Jimmy G jersey just to spite you. By the way, Finn's coming to San Francisco. If you were rich, I would tell you to get us some nice seats and come to the game. I got a room for you. I mean, this could be a Super Bowl preview. Anyways, back to the original thing. I guess I'm not so much disagreeing with you about what you're saying, about what you're seeing. I guess I just don't see what the alternative is. And whether that, like I said, God, what the hell? Fat guy, Pete. He's got the hair that looks like Full House. Pete Carroll, Pete Carter, Pete something. Who's the NFL guy that breaks down the film?
Chris Berman?
Peter King. There we go. Pete King. I call him Pete because we're close. We're on a first name basis. Anyways, he thinks that he's going to go for a 2 and then possible later picks 4 and 5 or whatever. But and with Jacobs, I think the worst news, not to pee in the Raiders fan base Cheerios right now, but the worst news out of that is Josh Jacobs dominating again, because I don't think you pay a running back. I think the Steelers proved that with Le'Veon Bell when he ended up getting a fat deal from the Jets, and that was a bad move. So I wouldn't even want Josh Jacobs to be great because I wouldn't want to pay a running back a ton of money. The NFL has shown us over the last 5 years you don't pay your running back a ton of money. So, but then, okay, so you don't sign Jacobs. You trade Carr. You do what the hell with Devontae Adams? Because, if you do it at that point, people are going to know it's pennies on the dollar. So then what? And then you got Crosby, and I don't think there's any other route for them to go than to double up on what they're doing. And I think the problem is, if I feel like the pieces are on that roster, I feel like the person conducting what those pieces do is the reason why, whatever, you called it a trend or it's a pattern where you lose that many one-score games. I think a coach can be the difference in that, and hence why I say fire McDaniels and hire Sean.
Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to come to a compromise on the fixing of the Raiders. Okay? I'm starting to come around to the idea that the component pieces of this franchise are better than I gave them credit for during those losing streaks.
Yeah.
So you double down, you commit to Devontae Adams and being he's one of the best wide receivers in the league, right? You try and keep Jacobs around, but you have a hard, fast number that you're not going to exceed in order to keep him around.
Yeah.
Okay. You get rid of McDaniels. You draft a new quarterback, and you stash him behind Carr, expecting Carr to play for the remainder of his contract. Let the young cat develop.
Okay.
And then when his time comes, his time comes.
How many years are you giving this guy to be there?
2.
Okay. And then Devontae's what? Our age?
How old is Devontae Adams? 32?
I don't know, but you got to capitalize now, pal.
I mean, you also don't want to tell whoever you're drafting as a new quarterback. He's 29 years old. In 2 years, he'll be 31.
All right.
Okay.
He's got a couple in him. Not enough to wait for a quarterback to get groomed well enough to be able to win.
I mean, I just don't know what you want to juggle all of these balls in the air, which is I guess the point of being a GM or an owner in the NFL. You can't tell the young quarterback you're drafting, hey, guess what? You got nobody to throw to. Hopefully, you bring this cat in, you draft a new player, and you say, we're going to let you compete with Carr. This team loves Carr. He's a leader. He's a person you can learn a lot from. Okay? He conducts himself the right way. He does things the right way in the NFL. Traditionally, it's not actually great for quarterbacks to start in their very first year. Everybody goes through pretty serious growing pains. Peyton Manning threw more picks than he did touchdowns his first year in the NFL.
It's awful.
Patrick Mahomes is the best player on planet Earth right now. He didn't start his first year.
One game.
Okay?
Week 16. Week 17.
Jalen Hurts wasn't a day one starter in the NFL. Look what that did for him. Aaron Rodgers, not a day one starter. Tom Brady, not a day one starter. Look what happened for all these guys. You convince that guy, when it is your time to step in, here's what we're going to have for you. Healthy Waller, a healthy Devontae Adams, a healthy Renfro, a surprisingly good offensive line. Maybe Jacobs is here, maybe he's not. Your defense is going to give you turnovers because that guy right there, his name's Max Crosby, he's going to get you a sack fumble every game, aren't you, Max? And Max is going to sit over there like a caveman and be like, right? Like, and then, Derek Carr either lights a fire under his ass or he sees the writing on the wall. But at the end of the day, you have a succession plan. And that's what this team needs, because the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result.
And you just hit the nail on the head. I'm insane because I'm running it back with Derek Carr forever. Like, it could be 2039 and I would be like, put Derek Carr out there. I mean, I've just seen, and people whose opinions I respect also saying Carr is not the issue. And I get it. Like, that is the definition of insanity. Like, stop saying Carr is not the problem. The same way that we talk about Jimmy G. That's totally different, by the way, because I think Jimmy G is significantly worse than Derek Carr. I think Derek Carr has just been surrounded by, and this is where, what's the old thing from Sociology 101? Nature versus nurture, right? Like, the nature of Derek Carr, I think, is great. The nurture around him has been the most pathetic thing that you could possibly trot out, with a guy going as far as getting busted for his emails while he's in Vegas. I mean, the guy has had nothing. Anyways, couple quick things before we get into general NFL thing. Did you have anything else on that? Because I was ranting.
No.
You would okay. So the answer to my question is you would draft a quarterback.
The question I asked 20 minutes ago was, would you draft a quarterback?
Yep.
I said, I think there's foundational pieces that you probably need to address first.
Yep.
But under your premise of, look at all of this, these shiny bells and whistles, and Jacob somehow staying in the fold, then yes, draft a quarterback.
All right. I feel like there's more often misses with your swings, which I think the Niners are going to learn with the whole Trey Lance thing. Anyways, moving on to a totally different thing. Well, I want to get to OBJ here in a second, but how are you on my crazy line of thinking? I've been doing this for years. So I'm a Dolphins fan. Their offensive line has been god-awful. So I've said for multiple years, just draft an offensive lineman with every single pick that you got. You got 10 picks, take 10 offensive linemen, 3 right guards, 4 centers, 5 right tackles. Do your thing. If I'm the Raiders, I'm drafting nothing but secondary, because my buddy who I played basketball with sent out a list of quarterbacks that have won a Super Bowl that didn't have a top 25 defense, and there's none, spoiler alert. And Carr hasn't had a top 25 defense or something like that in his entire tenure with the Raiders. And it's not, for me, the front seven. It's the secondary. So I would just draft every cornerback looking for my sauce, every safety looking for my Ed Reed, whatever. Just every pick. And then even if you miss on half, you're good to go.
Well, that's the problem, right? Is because I was sitting here saying, draft offensive linemen. They're like, we did. Leatherwood, look what happened. And you're saying, no, draft secondary. We did. Jonathan Abram, look what happened. But not just Abram, right? I mean, this is a franchise with a history of drafting speedsters, DJ Hayden, like these guys that you're just like, what? Why'd you draft him?
Yeah.
The position that we're both asking for, but the individual not being the right fit, not being focused on football, whatever.
Like, that's why I'm saying you take all of one position group and you can't fail on all seven. You know what I'm saying? You got to hit on 2 or 3 of those, right?
The Raiders probably would figure out a way to do it. to draft 7 linemen and get 0 starters out of it.
All right, that's enough Raider time. I mean, we should be. I should be happier. I feel like I'm more negative coming off a win than I usually am.
Surprised. Like I thought we were going to talk about like this was a good win for the Raiders.
Yeah, I know.
Win for the Raiders, but
I know, it's weird. I'm all over the place, like a 5-game losing streak, and I'm coming in here like blowing you kisses and talking about rainbows and Skittles, and then they're coming off of a OTW, and I'm out here saying that the sky is falling. Anyways, real quickly, what are your thoughts on wearing a seatbelt on the airplane? Just real quick.
When the seatbelt sign is on, put on your damn seatbelt.
Okay, but honestly, why are we wearing a seatbelt on the airplane?
You really need me to explain this to you?
What's it going to do?
Okay. So when you hit violent turbulence on an airplane,
I've been in that.
It is not without precedent that you hit the ceiling if you're not wearing the seatbelt.
When have you heard of a person hitting their head on the ceiling?
I mean, this is why you have to wear them, Zachariah. You're asking me what it's for? Go do yourself a favor.
I'm going to look it up.
Go down the rabbit
hole. If you're
hole.
right, I'll start wearing but I defy them, and I cover my shirt. I cover the seatbelt to make it look like it's on because I despise wearing my seatbelt on the plane. And I'm like the only person defending OBJ today.
That's silly. It's silly.
All right.
You hate turn signals also?
No, I actually hate people that don't use their blinkers. I'm a stickler about that.
Okay, follow the rules, bud.
Seatbelts on a plane, you know? Anyways. All right, I'll talk to you next week, bud.
Violent turbulence is most likely on takeoff and landing, which is why they ask you to wear your seatbelt on takeoff and landing.
Thank you. Thank you for that. See you, bud.